About 15 years ago, in the spring of 2007, the challenge was embarking on its 14th season, Inferno 3, where 20 competitors put into 2 teams of 10 each would be fighting to win their portions of $300,000. What they didn't know at the time was that season, season 14, Inferno 3, would be known as the Lost Season. And despite the creation of Paramount Plus, and for them to have the widest collection of the challenge seasons to date, depending on your general location, Inferno 3 is missing in the block that they have of season 10 through 35. Many have posed the question, why is Inferno 3 unavailable to stream or to buy? Many who have asked the question was answered with a simple copyright issue. MTV doesn't have the licensing for the music that they used on the season, and thus the season is unavailable. And if that's the answer, then I guess case closed, right? End of this video. But wait, what if that wasn't the reason, or the only reason why Inferno 3 isn't available? I took it upon myself to find and watch all of Inferno 3, and I think after my rewatch, I came up with some reasoning/theories on why the challenge Inferno 3 isn't just not available to stream, but will never be available to stream or to buy. In this video, I'll be giving multiple reasons why I think Inferno 3 is the season MTV wants you to forget ever happened. Now, a quick disclaimer, everything that I mention in this video is purely my speculation onto why Inferno 3 isn't available and will never be available to stream on Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime, or any streaming service. I'm merely working backwards to figure out reasons why it wouldn't be available, and it's all coming from my point of view and my speculations on why, say, production or a head of a network wouldn't want something like Inferno 3 out there. And the answer of copyright issues could very well be the barrier that is holding us back from being able to watch Inferno 3, but the simple answers is not what I'm looking for. I put the simple answers aside, and I wanted to use critical thinking in this video to come up with reasons, because to me, the simple answer of copyright issues with a studio and a company that has the resources, means, and funds, that a licensing issue shouldn't be that big of a barrier to have to cross. I feel like they could, if they really wanted to, make those go away, get the licensing to make a season available to us, if it was important. Alright, with that context and disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into my first theory. On night 1, Inferno 3 started off like any other challenge season. The 20 contestants arrive in South Africa, meet up with TJ to be put into teams, get the lowdown on the season, and then head off to the challenge house. Early in the night, we see CT making a toast to commemorate the start of the season. But not long after that scene, we see CT, who for sure had many more drinks throughout the night, was wrestling his teammate Kenny, where he almost chokes him out despite Kenny clearly tapping out. After one of their matches, they are separated. CT gets up, he has a bloody nose, and he is angry with Kenny, saying that Kenny went and took things way too far. Says the guy that almost choked out his own teammate. The scene gets relatively heated. Kenny is taken into the house. CT is held outside. CT, we hear in a confessional saying that DM is not on the season. He can play the game however he wants to, how dirty he wants to, and he talks about how frustrated he is in playing the challenge, getting far into seasons, yet leaving with no money. But what was detrimental to him is that he didn't have his eye on the prize on night 1, he had his eye on the booze. In the next instance, we see Davis in the bathroom, crying, being consoled by his teammate Johnny Bananas, known back then as simply John. Davis says that when he was walking past CT and Abram, CT stopped Davis to ask if Davis could take a punch. Davis replied yes, not knowing that CT was gonna wind back and let Davis have it square in the face. I think it's important to note that we don't actually see the encounter in question. We are just told via confessionals and kind of like a split scenes that were just like pasted together Frankenstein style. And it gets you into questioning like, why? Why didn't we get to see this fight happen or this punch happen? You might be thinking, well, maybe they just weren't rolling cameras at the time. This is night one in the middle of everything. If somebody is up, the camera crew is up, and they're going to be filming 24/7 on a night like this in a game like this. So you know that they have the footage. They either didn't want to show the real footage or the real scene because, one, they wanted to do this in a new style and a new format, or two, maybe the actual scene is a little bit more incriminating than what just this hearsay from the confessionals would have it make it out to be. Another interesting point about this scene is that we hear from CT, we hear from Johnny Bananas, we hear from Davis, we hear from Alton and Tyree. We don't ever hear from Abram. Now, from the confessionals, Bananas was in a different room with a whole group of people.
The four of us, the good guys, we're all hanging out in our room talking strategy, and Davis gets up to leave. Comes back about 2 minutes later and just rushes past us holding his face, runs into the bathroom.
Tyree wasn't in the same room either. So it sounds like the only eyewitness accounts that were in the room when this punch happened was CT, Abram, and Davis. And we never hear from Abram, which is, as I mentioned, interesting.
Davis? Yeah? What's going on, man? You okay?
No, he's not, dude.
Dude.
He's not okay, dude. CT clocked him for no reason, dude. So he's not alright.
The next time we see CT is in bed getting talked to by Tyree, Alton, Ace, questioning his actions, as well as saying he needs to be sent home. Davis, and I'm sure a few others, tell production that they don't feel safe with CT in the game if he's hanging out clocking people at will. So CT packs up his stuff in the middle of the night and leaves the season. Now you might look at this scene and say that this is deja vu, that this is something similar that happened in season 17, The Duel 2, where CT and Adam King had that infamous fight, those punches, the "I'll smash his head and eat it" line.
I will smash his head and eat it.
To where both were taken out of the game. If you have Paramount Plus and have watched that season, you know that the challenge has taken out that season where season 17, The Duel 2, starts off in episode 2 because of that big old fight. And so looking at these two very similar scenes, you might be saying to yourself, this doesn't seem like a reason to take out the whole season out of the mix. If anything, Paramount could do the same thing that they did with season 17. Just take out the first episode because of the fight, start the season off in episode 2, and we're good to go. The only thing that's different from the season 14 episode 1 punch compared to the season 17 punch is the intentions behind it. In season 17, we know that CT is going through a very rough time. His brother was murdered. He comes onto a challenge season where DM and him have split up very recently. So CT is in a very dark place. Him and Adam don't have the best chemistry or connection with each other. CT, with the rumor going around that him and Siobhan hooked up, and then seeing his, where some would say his rival from his original Real World season was talking to his ex, who he still has feelings for, thinking that he is throwing CT under the bus. CT decides to step up and then let him have it. I'm not saying all of this to excuse anything that CT does in that fight or to start that fight. Violence is never the answer, and everything that happened on The Duel 2 is a travesty. But Inferno 3, Season 14, the intent on why CT punched Davis is very foggy. Davis was a rookie on the season. CT is just hanging out. It's night one. Nobody has really crossed each other. So why would CT choose to punch Davis? Now, before CT leaves the season, a confessional is shown of him past when the season had already filmed. Production has CT talk about the incident, and to clarify, his intent was not to punch Davis because of homophobia.
They're just taking it too far because they know they're gonna have a really hard time getting rid of me. It's not malicious, it's not evil, I wasn't picking on a gay kid or anything like that. Like, get over it. I don't think I deserve to go home. Davis, I understand where you're coming from. You got a little boo-boo, like, let it go.
Again, I don't know if that whole incident is enough to censor the whole season. where MTV would say, we shouldn't have that season on at all. We'll just take that out, and then we'll just put the rest of the season up for streaming. However, they didn't do that. So let's go into my second theory. Now, the challenge has evolved over the years from its simple roots of competitors from two separate TV shows having to face against each other in a form of task to see who could win the most amount of money, to now what it is trying to be the fifth sport of America, or the fifth major sport of America. I don't know how that's really working out. But back in the day, it used to be a mixture of doing crazy tasks and eliminations mixed with the social experiment of having to live in the house, play a game, fight, scrap, lie your way to get to the finals and to win the most amount of money. And then maybe do some hookups along the way. Nowadays, there's a lot less on the house drama and the hookup aspect of the show, and everything is put into the competitive side of the show. Now that the challenge is trying to lean more into the competitive side and leave all that hookup and drama out on the wayside, it really puts into perspective when you watch Inferno 3, because this season has a lot more sexual content than prior seasons. Now, one thing that stands out to me in Inferno 3 is Johnny Bananas' blow-up doll. This doll is featured a ton on the season, whether it's just in the background, whether Bananas is doing body shots off of it, whether he's holding it while somebody is reading the clue from TJ. It is in a lot of this season. Now, recently I did a rewatch of the seasons, and when watching Inferno 3 back, I was like, is this prevalent in any of the older seasons? Like, maybe this is just kind of like how things went back in the day, and I totally kind of just like breezed on through it and past it when watching some of these seasons. So to make sure I didn't miss anything, I decided to watch a handful of episodes from season 13, The Duel, and season 15, Gauntlet 3, the two seasons that come before and after Inferno 3, and both seasons are widely available on Paramount Plus, to see if like this was just normal and I kind of just like didn't catch it, or it didn't stand out to me as much as it is standing out to me when watching Inferno 3. And I have to say, I watched like 5 to 6 episodes of each, The Duel and Gauntlet 3, and there is not one time do I see somebody else having a blow-up doll or fake boob props like Kenny has in one of the episodes, Bananas sharing a bathtub with Janelle, who doesn't seem very inviting of Bananas.
You are invading my privacy.
Not yet, but I will be soon.
Somebody get him.
Or Tanya learning some new dance moves via Anissa one night.
I hear more than her ass. Do you feel it?
No, I don't.
Tanya also calling up her husband, seeing if maybe she could hook up with Davis and get a hall pass for him. And one that I thought was very shocking to see is that one time when everybody was reading the clue from TJ, at one point, Ace grabs Jen's hand, pulls it to where he wants her to touch his crotch, and she instantly pulls her hand away, makes a face like, ooh, please, no, gross. And to me, that was just shocking. I don't think I've ever seen that on the challenge. Unless I wasn't looking for it, I've never seen that really happen on the challenge until that moment. And it's very prevalent once you see it. One reason why I think this plays a factor into the challenge and why all of this could be a reason why it's not posted readily available on Paramount Plus or any streaming service is that the challenge is really trying to take a stand and censor what they put out there. I mentioned them taking out season 17, episode 1. They have a few other seasons that are missing one episode or missing scenes in certain episodes. One of those seasons missing an episode is season 18, The Ruins, episode 4, entitled Girls Gone Wild. It has a very suggestive name because that is the name of a pornographic series, and in that episode, we can see bullying happening to Katie and Tanya, and also Tanya hitting Veronica a ton and just slapping the crap out of her. Now, you might be looking at that episode and you might think, okay, they took that out because of the fight scene between Tanya and Veronica. And I would almost agree with you, but a couple episodes later, we have the Brad versus Darrell fight where Darrell makes hamburger meat of Brad's face. The episode isn't taken out of the season. The scene isn't taken out of the season. So why did they censor episode 4, but not episode 8 or 9 when Darrell is going up against Brad? I think it has to do with everything from the slap fight, from the bullying, and the suggestive name. With Inferno 3, these episodes weren't an hour long. These episodes were 20 to 21 minutes. And so if you're having to cut out certain objects or things or scenes out of a season or an episode, or having to blur so many times when something is shown on the screen, that's going to be a lot more time, effort, and money. And for a random old season that you may or may not think is that good of a season to have to put so much time and effort in to make it available to a wider audience, that could play a factor in, we don't want to show this, it'll take too long to have to censor everything or take it out, and I'd rather just not even show the season at all because it's cost effective if we don't show any of it rather than having to cut all around it. Now, sexual content isn't like not in any of the other seasons that are available to watch on Paramount Plus, as we have that infamous soap challenge that happens in Rivals 3 that is very suggestive in nature. And it reminds me of the electric chair challenge that's in Inferno 3 when everybody is talking about Kara and the noises she's making when she gets electrocuted.
I've never been so turned on by anyone getting electrocuted before.
I just feel like it could be overboard. It's not just an episode. It's not just a challenge. It happens in multiple episodes and multiple challenges throughout the season. Now, I just mentioned it in the previous point, but I think it's something that has to be brought up here, and that is the bullying that happens in Season 14, Inferno 3, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And majority of the bullying comes from Susie and her friends of Kara and Coley, as they play in multiple episodes of the season the I Hate Tanya game.
Everyone go around and say one reason why they hate Tanya. We'll keep going till the end.
Where the women would take turns saying the phrase, I hate Tanya because, and then give a reasoning why they hate Tanya. Now, this has nothing to do with the game, where they don't say, like, I hate Tanya because she put me up for elimination. I hate Tanya because she voted my best friend into the elimination. I hate Tanya because she messed up on the challenge and cost us $10,000. No. This was all low blows, petty, really dirty comments against Tanya, whether it's her voice.
I hate Tanya because her voice is scratchy.
Her appearance.
I hate Tanya because she does those lunges and it makes her ass really, really fat.
Her, or being slut-shamed by the women.
I hate Tanya because she's a slut. I hate Tanya because every 5 seconds she's in a new sexual position.
This was very, very hurtful stuff.
I hate Tanya because the distraction of her insanely large saddlebag thigh ass area is actually so distracting that I think it's affecting the admissions.
And as I mentioned, this wasn't played in just one episode. This was played in multiple episodes, and not just from the three of Susie, Coley, and Kara. They play it with multiple other people that jump in on it as well. And this isn't something that you could just like maybe cut out of one episode, because there is an arching story rivalry throughout the whole season between Susie and Tanya, where both women are being very toxic to each other, albeit Tanya is being reactive to how toxic Susie is to her. Like, Susie comes out of nowhere saying, hey Tanya, you smell like a stripper, but in a good way.
And then she has the balls to say to me, you smell like a stripper, but in a good way, with this eating grin on her face. And I'm like,
I wasn't trying to be mean to you. Susie!
And Tanya is frustrated, wants to take Susie out, wants to hurt her, calls her a lot of names throughout the season.
I'm gonna make her life hell here until she cries, falls apart, and goes home. I've done it before and I'll do it again.
And this is going on for the whole season because both women, spoiler alert, make it to the finals of the season. So again, this isn't just one-time thing and then Susie leaves or Tanya is eliminated. This is for the whole season.
I hate Tanya because she's more evil than Tanya Harding.
Wow! Now I just mentioned that it's a lot of Susie doing the bullying to Tanya, but some bullying happens to Susie as well. In one episode, we have Susie walking past the pool. Abe comes out of nowhere and just tackles her hard into the water. Just like the CT and Davis punch, we do not see any of the real footage. Instead, we see Susie crying in the bathroom, drenched after everything that happened. We get 2 confessionals, one of Abram and one of Susie, giving their accounts of what happened. Susie mentions that she is tired of being bullied, which I find ironic, but she says that she is tired of being hated and being picked on in the house.
I'm being bullied. Everybody hates me.
Abram, of course, doesn't know why Susie is upset and will not apologize. And in fact, at the end of the episode, I guess there was some agreement or some conversation that was had that she said, hey, Abram, do my clothes and everything will be cool. She gives him her wet clothes, where Abram then takes them and then throws them right in the toilet, which is another sense of hazing and bullying in there as well. Again, why didn't we get to see any of this footage of Abram tackling Susie into the pool? You know that they were filming this whole scene. They were filming 24/7, yet again they decide one time, again they decide not to show the raw footage or the actual scene in question. They decided to do these patchy camera works and scenes and then put it all together with a he said, she said confessionals. They've done it twice, and they did it a third time. In episode 5, we start out with a house party scene. Everyone seems to be having a good time, drinking some spiked punch and jumping in the pool. As the night gets later, more people go to bed. That is, except for the guys of Bananas, Ace, Danny, and Davis. They decide they want to bust into the women's room. The women, I mind you, are all sleeping. They seem to have been asleep for a while now. But the men want to go wake them up anyways. So the men all go up to their room, bust open the door, start to shake the beds violently, singing loudly, hitting the beds with their bunk ladders, and some even jump into the women's bed with them. Susie talks about how Ace jumped into her bed and in a survival mode starts to punch Ace. He falls out of the bed and all the guys run off. The actual scene was not shown. Some of those scenes may have made their way into the final edit, but you can tell that there was a lot of jumbled up scenes and scenes that weren't necessarily from that same night. So why? Why wasn't it put in there? Again, it could be because of the style or the format that they wanted to try for the season, or what was shown was a lot more incriminating than what they're saying happened in the confessionals. And they're trying to possibly hide something from the general audience. For how sketchy it looks and sounds, and from what we know of the past histories of some of the seasons, I have to tend to lean towards the latter. The next morning, Cara, Coley, and Susie are visibly angry and upset by everything that happened in the night prior. They let the guys know that there needs to be barriers that can't be crossed, and what happened the night prior is not acceptable. Bananas and Ace continuously tell them that it was a joke, lighten up. What really put a shiver down my spine was Coley saying,
Johnny touched me last night and shook my bed. He touched me and I didn't touch him back, and he shouldn't have touched me in the first place. Say someone, stop. Go away. And they don't stop. Some people are left with no other choice.
What I legit can't believe the most out of this whole episode and experience and situation is Ace. Ace being offended that the women felt threatened. They said how they felt about being woken up, terrorized in the night, being harassed, and then having men jump into a bed that they didn't invite them in, having their personal space violated, not knowing what their intentions were, and saying that they felt threatened. And Ace takes that and gets offended as if he is the victim now.
She lied and said that she felt threatened, like I was gonna do something to her. That really hurt. That's what hurt my feelings. Because there was no way in hell I was being threatened. Slapped in the face 4 times as hard as she could possibly hit me. Now y'all can sit there and tell me whatever all day long. That's not right.
That, oh, I did something wrong. My intentions, he could say all he wants that his intentions were one thing. But when somebody else feels a different way than what you intentioned for a situation to go, your intentions are out the window. Like, you have to now think about your actions and what somebody else was feeling in that moment. And Ace is just like, I'm offended that they felt threatened. That wasn't me at all. That wasn't what I was going for. So what if that wasn't what you were going for? That's how it came off. They were scared. They were terrorized. They were nervous. The whole episode, Ace is playing the victim. Timmy tries to be the mediator for the good guys, going between Susie and Ace, trying to get them to speak on what happened the night prior so that they can come to an understanding and apologize to one another. But Ace is not having it. He doesn't want to talk to Susie or about the situation at all.
Well, I think the best thing to do is for you and Ace to hash it out. I mean, how do you feel about talking with him?
I feel fine about it. I'd be happy to.
Would you have a problem just talking it out with Susie one-on-one?
I don't know what there's really to discuss.
What makes my stomach churn is at the very end of this episode, we see Susie and Ace finally having a conversation. But the conversation is so one-sided to the point where Susie is apologizing to Ace about punching him, and Ace is never shown once apologizing to Susie for what his part was in the whole situation.
I don't know if it's my best quality or my worst quality, but I have the inability to hold a grudge.
I know that you're great. It was just a bad situation. It was, you guys were drinking and we were trying to sleep. I know that you would never purposely hurt anybody.
I've never been hit in my face in my life.
And I know that you're a gentle person. Ace is a great guy. I love him very much, and I feel really bad.
The edit leans so heavy on Susie apologizing, Susie feeling bad because Ace is such a good guy. He wouldn't purposely want to hurt somebody or threaten anybody. But yet he did. He did do that. And he is not like sitting there having to apologize. Instead, he's making a joke about it, being like, oh yeah, well, I probably should have been punched because my singing isn't very good.
You were affected and I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I probably had it coming, I'll be honest with you, because I'm not very good of a singer.
And this is only one conversation between two people in a situation that dealt with like 8 or 9 people. We don't hear from Danny, Bananas, or Davis. We don't see them apologizing to Susie, Cara, or Coley, or anybody else in the room that was affected by this. This was shocking to me to watch. And even if this season was made available to stream, I have no doubt in my mind that this episode would not see the light of day. Now, those are the bulk of my reasons and theories on why Inferno 3 is not and will not be available to stream on Paramount Plus or any other streaming network as long as MTV has their way and they want you to forget this season ever happened. Now, it may not just be for one of those reasons why Inferno 3 is not available to stream. If it was just one thing out of the many things that I mentioned in this video, I could see them just picking and choosing and taking out 1 or 2 episodes and then just letting it go or censoring out certain things in the season. But when you have all of these reasons just building on top of each other over and over and over again, I can tell MTV just goes, let's just not do it. We're going to have to take out 2 or 3 episodes anyways. We're going to have to cut out or blur some things in 4 or 5 episodes. Let's just not show it at all. It's easier on our bank accounts. We still get majority of the challenge seasons up on our streaming service. Hopefully, one day, the challenge fandom will just kind of forget that season 14 ever happened. Alright, that's it for this video and my theories on Inferno 3 and why it's not available. What do you think about all my reasons? Let me know that in the comment section below. Do some of my reasons hold water, or some of my theories hold water, or do you think it's all like, nah, that's not it at all. It's only about the copyright issue. Let me know anything and everything you thought about this video down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and also I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you so much for your support and generosity. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. While you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be back really, really soon with more challenge content, more content in general, but until then, peace.